Coming into the classroom as a supply teacher can provide a range of challenges, especially the managing of student behavior. In this video, you'll have the opportunity to learn techniques and methods that have been used successfully by thousands of occasional teachers to keep their classes under control. Alright, let's face it, being a supply teacher is tough. Upon arriving at a school you're unfamiliar with, you'll feel out of place and unaware of the procedures and all the expectations that they have for you. You'll most likely be assigned to teach a subject or grade you've never taught before and have had no training in. With all this against you, it's important to make sure that you're able to handle challenging behavior in the classroom. Alright, first thing, try to get to the school well before the bell rings. You want to give yourself time to become familiar with the school and its procedures. You also want time to go over the lesson plan that the regular classroom teachers left for you. If at all possible, get to your room early and become familiar with it. How are the desks arranged? Did the teacher leave a seating plan for the class? And if they left you a specific note for the needs of learners within the room, get familiar with where they sit. Keep the seating plan with you during class so you can address each student by name. By knowing the names of your learners, not only are you starting to build rapport with them, but they'll be less likely to act up. Ideally, the classroom teacher has left you detailed plans, but this is not always going to be the case. If their plans seem vague or there's parts missing, you need to use your expertise to make the lesson more engaging. Remember, a busy, engaged student is much less likely to act up than a student that's got nothing to do and staring at the walls. Bring a backup or emergency lesson plan with you to every teaching assignment. I don't know how many times the lesson plan I was following was either too short or there were issues with technology. I quickly found that having a backup with me that could keep students busy in case of one of these issues is an essential tool. This can include things like DVDs, crossword puzzles, or word searches. Alright, you want to know when the most important part of the day is as a supply teacher? Well, it's that first 5 minutes. Students will be sizing you up and often they'll be deciding what they can get away with. You probably even hear a supply. Students, especially older ones, will have had supply teachers in the past that have had classroom management issues and may feel like they can kind of change their behavior because you're there in place of their regular teacher. This is why the first few minutes is crucial. Alright, I'm assuming that you've already engaged the students as they entered the room and they found their seats and class is ready to go. Let students know that you'll be referencing the seating chart for all activities throughout the day. This way, they'll be less likely to sit in a seat that's not their own. Also, there's usually at least 1 or 2 helpful students in class that'll let you know when a student is not sitting in their proper seats. Without a doubt, being a supply teacher feels like the first day of class every day, and honestly, in some ways it is. It's in these first few minutes you need to establish norms of behavior and communicate what you expect out of them. Along with your name, have the day's agenda written on the board. Briefly explain who you are in a calm, confident manner. Go through the agenda with students explaining what will be happening throughout the day, and make sure you explain your expectations for behavior and what you want to accomplish in the class. This will help set the tone for the day. After you've done this, it's time to get right to work. By the way, if there's any issues with student behavior in these first few minutes, you need to address it. Taking a very proactive approach to this will save you headaches as the class goes forward. No matter how good of a start you get off to, inevitably there'll be times when students are not behaving in the way that you expect. Depending on the severity of the behavior, there's a few ways that you can deal with it. You can use subtle steering, direct redirection, or even implementing consequences. Subtle steering is a way to manage behavior that doesn't sink a lot of the student, but lets them know that you're aware of their behavior. Often just by giving them a glance, a hand gesture, or a facial expression can let them know that you don't appreciate how they're acting and that they need to change their behavior. Proximity is another good way to reinforce positive behavior. Standing over by students who are not focused is often enough to make them realize that they need to get back on task. Direct redirection is a way to address students about their behavior one-on-one. Walk over to the student in a calm, confident way and have a quiet but serious conversation with them. Explain to them that their behavior is starting to distract their classmates and cutting into the instructional time. It's important to let them know why the behavior needs to stop and what you expect out of them. Alright, there'll be times when subtle steering and even direct redirection fail to give you the behavior you desire, and your only course of action needs to be implementing consequences. It's important to remember, whenever you're giving consequences for behavior, you should have 4 criteria that you need to follow. Be consistent, be fair, be reasonable, and keep the end goal in mind. We'll talk more about how to implement consequences as a supply teacher in another video. Managing student behavior as a supply teacher will not always go as planned. You will realize that some techniques you try are too complicated and others are just not effective. And that's okay. Even the most seasoned occasional teachers have bad days. What's important is that you learn from your experience and become a better educator. Good luck.